Hey, are you looking to create and send invoices from Monday.com by using Moneybird? Well, you're at the right place. I'm Patrick, and over the last 5 years I've helped over 75 businesses to automate their processes, and today I'm going to help you automate your finance process from Monday.com. By the end of this video, you know exactly how to create and send an invoice from Monday.com by using Moneybird. Let's get started. Before we get started, it's good to know that you need a tool called make.com to build this automation. There's no native integration between Monday and Moneybird at this point, so that's why we're going to build one. It's relatively simple if you just follow the steps. If you don't have a Make account yet, you can look at the link in the description and you can sign up for free there. It's also good to know that all the make.com blueprints, which are like templates, that I will create in this video will also be linked in the description. So it's the first link in the description. If you click on it, you can just download it for free and then you can import it into your Make account and can just start where I left off, basically saving you a lot of time. However, if you at the end of this video cannot figure out how to do a specific thing, you can always reach out to me. You can just leave a comment on the video, or you can reach out to me and see my contact details below, and then I'll help you with your project. So let's get started. So what we're going to cover in this video is a few things. We're going to start with the basic board structure in Monday. Then we're going to connect Monday to Make. And then we're going to look up the contact in Moneybird to see if they exist. We want to prevent your team from duplicating a lot of contacts in Moneybird and making it a big mess. So before we create or send an invoice, we always check if the customer already exists in Moneybird. If so, because it's, for example, a recurring customer, we'll just use that customer in Moneybird. And if not, then we'll create a new one. Awesome. Then the fourth step is to create an invoice and save that specific file to Monday.com so your team can see the invoice that's been sent. Then also to send the invoice from Monday.com, and I'll give you some best practice tips. So let's go to Make. I actually meant let's go to Monday because that's the first step. And the first step is to check the board structure. I do expect that you have some basic Monday.com knowledge, so you can just rebuild what I built here. I will walk through it, but I won't go into too much detail. So basically what I have here is I have a group for draft invoices, a group for generated invoices, and a group for sent invoices. Then we have, let's just add a draft invoice here. We have a status column with a few options, which are sent, sending, ready to send, ready to create, creating and created, and then an error status. So I would recommend that you also pick these options. Then we have a create invoice button, a send invoice button. We have a total value, which I'll show you in a second. You have a contact email. So here we can fill in the email of the contact. Obviously you can also, if you have contacts on a different board because you separate them, that's also possible. You can just use a connect boards column and mirror columns to also do this automation. Then we have an invoice column, which is a files column, a link to Moneybird, which, well, it's just a link column, and an invoice ID, which is a text column. And there's one more layer to this because we have sub items, so I'll show you. And the sub items have a quantity column, which is a numbers column, a price per unit, which is also a numbers column, and a total, which is a formula column, which basically just price times quantity, which you will then also see here. And what I did here, where you see the total value as well, is I just created a formula that basically gets the data from here and then adds a nice dollar sign and shows the decimals. So if I would fill in this information here, you would see 80 is the value, but 80 looks a bit weird. So it looks like this when you use the formula. I'll make sure this formula is also attached to the make.com blueprints that you can download in the description. But feel free to just copy it by just looking at the video. Awesome. First things first, there's a few things you need to do here with regards to the automations. So if you go to automations, these are the basic board automations that you need. So when create invoice is clicked, set status to ready to create. Same thing for send invoices, but then ready to send. And then we move some items based on their status. Obviously, these are just button columns, so nothing too crazy. And these are just some very basic Monday.com things. So as I said, I won't go into too much detail here because I expect that you can figure out how to rebuild that stuff. Okay, now we have the more interesting stuff, which is actually the next step, and that is to connect Monday to Make, because you need a tool called Make to connect Monday to Moneybird. And I'll show you how. So first things first, we're going into Make. And if you're in Make, it looks something like this. You would need to go into the Scenarios tab on the left-hand side, and then you'll see something like this, where on the top right, you can create a new scenario. So let's create that one. Yep, there you go. I'll give it a nice name. Moneybird, Monday.com tutorial, create invoice. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a thing called a webhook, and webhooks are super powerful. If you don't know anything about webhooks, I would highly recommend that you check out my video on webhooks. It's probably linked somewhere on the top here, and I'll also make sure it's linked in the description. Basically, it's a video where I explain in great detail what webhooks are, how to connect them, and how it works. But I'll also show you how it works here, but I won't go too much into the theory of it. So the trigger will be a webhook, and we're going to use the custom webhook one. And basically what a webhook is, to give you a quick summary, is well, the only thing you need to know is that we can use webhooks to send data from Monday to Make. And it's sending it the signal in one way, and yeah, that's really what a webhook is, and the only thing you need to know about webhooks. We don't need to go into too much more technical detail. So when you're at this point, you can click on Add here to add a new webhook. Give it a nice name, such as Moneybird Create Invoice, and then click on Save. And here you see a nice URL, which I'll show you in a second what we're going to do with it. The next thing is we're going to add another step, so you can just double click, and then you see webhook at the top, and we're going to for the webhook response. Yes, so the webhook response, what you need to do is just click here. We give a status 200, meaning that it's completed, it's correct. And now we're going to give a body into Monday. What you need to do is you need to confirm that you're kind of the owner of the webhook. So you need to return a challenge code to Monday so they can confirm it's you. So this is how you would do it. You would do an open curly brackets, double quotation mark, and you type challenge. You do another double quotation mark. They do a colon, then another double quotation mark. And here you do double curly brackets, one dot challenge, and you close two curly brackets, and it should look like this. Then you end with a quotation mark, a double quotation mark, and end with the curly brackets. Make sure it's exactly the same as what I have on my screen here. Just one more time, if you want to do the one dot challenge, it's double quotation mark, one dot challenge, and close it with two quotation marks. It should look like this. If you don't see this, you've probably done something wrong in this whole string. So make sure this text is exactly the same as what I have here. Awesome. Click OK. Then go back to the first step and copy the address to your clipboard. Click OK and run it once. And now it's going to listen. Oops. Now it's going to listen for a new signal from Monday. So let's send that. So let's go to Monday. And the first thing we want to do is create an invoice. So what I built is an automation that if you click create an invoice, this will be set to ready to create, which will be the trigger to send the signal to Make. So let's set that up. If you go into automate, templates, and you type webhook, you can see this one. When a status changes to something, send a webhook. So let's click there. If you've already worked with webhooks, it looks something like this. Then you need to use another account. If not, then you'll see something like this. And this is where you would paste your URL that we just copied. Let's paste it and click connect. Then it looks like this. If you get an error, it's because you didn't do something well in this step. So please go back to that part of the video and double check if you did it right. Cool. So we say when a status is changed to ready to create, send a webhook, and then we add it to the board. Great. Now let's go back to Make and remove this step, because you only need to give the challenge once to Monday and then they're like, this is fine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to test if the webhook works. So let's run it and then test it. So keep in mind, it only triggers when the status changes to ready to send. So if I would click here, nothing changes and therefore it doesn't trigger. But if I put this to draft and then click create invoice, it will change. And we will see, as you can see here, by this thing, we got a new event. If you open it, you see a lot of information from Monday. Most important thing here is the pulse ID, which is your item ID. And we're going to use that one. Okay, cool. So now we've connected it to Make. The next step is to create an invoice. And we would do that by first getting the information from this invoice that we want to create. So the next step will be a Monday step. Just double click and add Monday and go for show more and get an item. Then, as you can see here, you'll see something like this. You need to add your connection. As you can see here, I still have another tutorial open up, but you can just click on add and then I'll call it Moneybird tutorial. I would just recommend that you call it something like your company name and also the user who is doing this, because that's very important and I'll show you in a second. So we need an API key. We can get that from Monday. Just go back to Monday, go into your account here, click on developers here, and then go into, where is it? My access tokens. And here you'll have an access token. Few things to note here. Do not share this token with anyone, because if they get access to this token, they will be able to create, update, delete everything from your Monday account. So it's very, very, very important that you do not share this with anyone. Please keep that in mind. The second thing is, please create this token from a user that will be in the company for the end of time, till the end of time. Because the moment this user that created the token leaves the company and is removed from Monday, the access token will be invalid. So that means your automations will be broken. It's quite easy to change this, but if nobody knows how to do it, yeah, you have some problems. So I would recommend to have like a founder or an admin, or ideally you have like a separate extra account just for this IT related stuff. But of course that doesn't make sense for a lot of you guys. So yeah, just keep this in mind. Anyways, you need to click show or generate if it's not generated for you, and then click copy. I'll just make sure that mine will be regenerated after this video, so you don't have access to this account, even though it's just a demo account. Let's go back to Make and paste this API key here, then click save. It will load a bit and then it should show something like this. If not, you probably didn't copy it correctly, so please double check. Great. The board ID is the first thing we're going to fill in. So if you click, it will load all your boards from your account that you have access to. In my case, it's called Moneybird tutorial. Don't use sub items of Moneybird, just use Moneybird tutorial in my case. So your case, obviously the name of your board. And we have an ID, which will be the Pulse ID. You can click or you can drag, whatever you prefer. Oops, you can drag or click. Both work fine. So yeah, that's how you would do it. Then you click, make sure show sub items is turned on, very important. And then click OK. Now we're going to run it and let's trigger it again in Monday. So let's go back and click here. And then you'll see a signal coming in. And as you can see, what you do with webhooks, you get some data, but not a lot. And here we get the item and we get actually all the information with regards to this item, including column values, which you'll see here. So we see, for example, the status, what's happened on the buttons, all that kind of stuff. So that's great. So now that we have the information, we can fill in some test data. So let's call this, marketing agency services. And let's say we do a Google Ads campaign and we do 8 hours of $95 an hour, and we do a Facebook ads campaign where we do, let's say, 16 hours of 125 per hour. And then as you can see here, the total value is $2,760. By the way, if you're from Europe and use euros, you can just change this specific symbol and it will show the euros. Same thing here, price per unit. If you change it here, it will be euros. So pretty simple. Okay, that's the next step. So now we need to actually create this invoice. So we'd go back to make, and then as a next step, oh wait, by the way, I forgot one thing. We didn't add a contact email yet, so let's do that. I'll do Patrick called demo. Patrick called demo. So as you can see, we have the demo contact address. Yeah, so first thing what we need to do is actually figure out if this customer exists in Moneybird, as I said in the beginning of this video. So let's add another step, type Moneybird, and then we're going to type contacts, and we have list contacts by criteria. So let's do that. You also need to add a connection here, so I'll just add one. I'll call it Moneybird demo, and then save, and then should open up your Moneybird environment. I have my demo account here. Give access to the administration that you want to give access to. So I authorize here because it's a test one, and then it should look something like this. There you go. And in this query, I'm going to check one thing. Yes, so in this query, we're going to link the email address. So you can, as you can see here, search for a lot of different fields, including, where is it, email, and that's what we're going to search for. If you would actually build this automation and you want to make it more robust, I would recommend using something like a customer ID. So I would just, anytime a customer gets created in your account, create the customer ID and save that ID in Monday, and then you can adjust the automation so it would only search for a new contact if the customer ID is unknown. Anyways, in the query field, if you click here, you'll see all the information from Monday. And as you can see in the mappable column values, there's a contact email step. There's an email thing, which you can just click, and now it's referencing that specific field. You can put the limit to 1 because we only want to return one result. Hopefully there are no more, because then you have duplicates with the same email, and click OK. Great, so let's test if it works. So we click run once, and we will just click the create invoice again. Oops. As you can see, the result is the total number of bundles is 0, meaning this customer doesn't exist in account yet. So that's something we need to fix, because we need to add this user. So the next step would be to add a router. So let's add a router, and routers basically allow you to put something to have like a split between where people go based on filters. So let's say the top one, if you click on this wrench icon, you can set up a filter, and you can give it a label customer doesn't exist. And the condition here is total number of bundles is equal to, and not a text operator, but a number. And we do equal to, where is it? Equal to 0, because then there is none. We click OK. As you can see here, everyone will go here if the customer doesn't exist. And then the next step would be to create the customer. I will also create this one. So we do customer does exist. And we say the condition is the total number of bundles is greater than or equal to 1. So you OK. Make sure you use the numeric operator in this case, but because we're not really comparing text, but we are comparing numbers. So let's go into the top one where we say, okay, the customer doesn't exist. Now we need to create the customer. So let's go here, go to Moneybird, and you do contact again. And now we're going to create a contact. And here we have quite a few options. Obviously at this moment, I'm only working with an email address, but as you can see, you need either a company name or a first name, and then you can fill in a lot of information. So what I will do for this specific test, I'll just add a new column real quick which is called company name. So let's do a text column and call it company name, and we call it Patrick's LLC. Then I'm going to run the automation again, if possible, yes. And then I'm going to say, well, let's create the invoice. And now it's triggering again, so the data will flow through and I can use it in this step. As you can see, if I open it and I go to company name, I close this one, then here should be, where is it? Oh, it's text 6 underscore underscore 1. If you have a lot of columns, I have a quick tip for you. So go into Monday and go into here, then go into Monday Labs and enable developer mode, because if you enable developer mode by clicking here and then clicking on this X icon, you will be able to see the column ID by just clicking on, for example, this, and then you see here the column ID is text 6 underscore underscore 1. Great if you have lots of columns. So let's get back. So we're going to use a company name and we're going to add an email address for invoices, which is, where is it? Contact email. There you go. And if you use quotes, yeah, feel free to do it as well. We can just add the same email. And then we do OK. And now if we run it again, and we would, let's run it again. If we would run it again, it would look something like this. So as you can see here, it's going well. So we have a contact ID, administration ID, all the stuff that's been created. It looks pretty good. And I think if we would now run it again, it should go this way because the customer now does exist. So let's try it to make sure that our logic is correct. And hey, that's interesting. So didn't find it. Let me check why. Oh, well, I think there was just a small delay, because if I run it again, you'll see that, let's try it again, because it didn't change anything really. I think it just, yeah, took some time. So as you can see here, it now did find a bundle, which is the right company. And as you can see, it didn't go to this step, but it wanted to go to this one. However, there was no step here yet. So that's great. It means it works. Let's make sure that we now go to the next steps. So what you can do here is you can update the contact. So let's do Moneybird and do update contact by its ID. And then you can say, well, this contact ID is the contact, is this contact ID from the last step. As you can see on that side, it's blinking. So you know that this is actually the bundle you're referencing to, the module. So let's do contact ID, and now you can update that contact. So let's say you would actually build this automation in your account. You would want to have more information, and I would actually refer that right information. So if there's any updates, it will automatically update in your Moneybird account. So let's do, for example, company name and do the text 6 underscore underscore 1. Who knows, maybe the company name changed. So let's do OK. And now we have both the create and update contact module. The next step is to create the invoice. However, before we do that, I want to do a little bit of error handling / making the automation more robust. Because if you would now fill in the automation, so let's just run it and I'll show you, and there's no email, so let's just remove this email for now, and I'll run it, you'll see that we have a big error. Because we're trying to use an email, but there is no email. Oh, that's actually interesting. Let me check why this is the case. Maybe because, let's run it once again, because I'm pretty sure there is no email. Nope. Maybe it's just because it was a bit slow. Let's check. Well, that's actually interesting. Wait a second. Okay, I didn't know that, but apparently Moneybird will just return anything. So if you have a query, which is a search query, and there is none, it will just return one contact, which is a problem, because if you do that, you will always have the wrong one. So what we're going to do here to fix this is to hold shift and move all these modules to the right. Then we're going to right click here to unlink this stuff. So the Moneybird and Monday modules are not connected anymore. And what we want to do here is add a router. So do a router. And then the first one can just be connected to Moneybird. You can delete this step here, so it's now connected nicely. And the second one will go this way. And what we're going to do is we're going to return an error to the user when the email is not filled in, because as you can see, then it will kind of ruin the whole automation and send invoices to the wrong people, which we don't want at all. So here you would go to the wrench icon and set up a filter. And we would say all data is filled in. And here what we want to do is we want to check with the filter if all data is actually in the columns. So in my case, it's for example, the text LLC, or sorry, the text column, which is the company name. And we say exists. And we're also going to say where is it? Email. There, contact email. And then we also say exists. There we go, okay. And in this case for you, if you have more data, just use all of them here. We click OK. And here we're going to do set up a filter. And we're going to use this function, the fallback function. Not all data exists. And this kind of means that if it doesn't go to any other step, it will go to this step. So if some data is missing, it will go into this step. You don't need to fill in any condition here. As you can see, it says now fallback, and this is first. So it will first try. If not, it will go this way. Cool. Now we need to show that error to the user. So add Monday, and we're going to do a step called update column values of a specific item. So let's do that. And then the board ID in my case, well, the board is called Moneybird tutorial, but in your case, it's your board, of course. And the item ID, make sure you don't select it like this. It's tempting, but don't do it because it will be then always looking for that specific item, a specific invoice, whereas you should use it dynamically. So map it and map it to the pulse ID of the start. Then add a column value to change. The status column in this case, so it's called status for me. Where is it? Status, yes. And we're going to give it a label, and that label is error C updates. So make sure if you don't see this one, just add it as an option here, and then click here to refresh all the options. Then click OK. And the next step is to create an update. So we do Monday again, create an update. Click here. And the item ID, once again, the pulse ID. Always make sure it's dynamic. And here we have a body. So we say error, you forgot to fill in one or more of these fields. And then we do, for example, contact email, company name. And here you can obviously add more based on what you want. You can also use HTML here. So if you use some HTML skills, you can make, for example, it bold. So we can do like this, strong, and then close it with strong. And then it will be bold and looks a bit more fancy and nicely set up. So we do at the bottom, please add this data and try again. If you click OK, and now go back to the board. As you can see, there's no contact email. So if I would now run the automation, it should go this route and fail. So let's try. Create invoice. There you go. And it says error C updates. You forgot to fill in one or more of these fields. That's great. So that's how you would do it. You can also use notifications. You can send emails. You can do a lot. Just make sure that your team sees it and make sure you do it in a way that makes most sense to them. I like this setup because they instantly get the error if they try it. But if your team is, for example, less tech savvy, an email might also be helpful, or maybe just a Slack message. It could be anything. All can be done in the same way. There's one more thing before we go to the next step, which would be that I always like to show the user that we're actually working with this automation, that the automation is working. So let's right click here and unlink, and then copy this specific module. You can clone, you can copy, whatever you want. If you use copy, you need to right click and paste. If you clone it, you just drag and drop like this, and then you connect it like this. If If you accidentally connected to the wrong one, just right click and unlink and make sure it's here. Then we are not going to change this to status error, but to status creating. What you'll see now, if I run it and I am a user, I click, and the first thing I see is ready to create and creating. So I know, okay, something is happening and now there's an error. So as you can see, it's pretty easy for the user to understand what's happening under the hood, and it's important to show this. Cool. So these are some great things to add to your automation to make it more robust. Next step I would do is to rename them. So I would say change status to creating. Then we do, for example, here is get invoice details. Here we would say change status to error, etc., etc. I would just recommend that you document your stuff because otherwise it will be hard when you look into it, I don't know, half a year from now when something broke for whatever reason, to fix it and know what's going on. So this is why I recommend it a lot. Great. Next step is to start sending invoices. And we do that by just going to, for example, this one, type Moneybird, and we do show more. You'll see there's a create sales invoice option if you're going for, well, there's also, you can also do it with purchase invoices, you can see. Quotes, you can do it. So really what we're going to do now with sales invoices is the same for quotes. You just need to create a quote rather than a sales invoice. So let's do create sales invoice and choose the account, in my case, Moneybird demo. And as you can see, I need to give more permission. So let's continue and then authorize that it's allowed to, create invoices. As you can see here, the contact ID, don't use a fixed one, but map it. So map it to the contact ID for the last step. The workflow ID, I'm sorry that this is Dutch, but it means standard, which you can probably tell. It's just one letter of difference. And yeah, you can have lots of workflows in Moneybird, as you might know. For example, if you have lots of English invoices, then you can make a standard template for English invoices. In my case, I will just use standard. Details, I'll get back to that in a second. And as you can see, there's a lot of other stuff you can fill in, such as the currency. I'll just do US dollars now. I won't include VAT, I won't give a discount. All these steps you can just reference modules, columns in Monday. So you can just add columns for them and reference them like we just did in earlier steps. You would just go to the Monday step and click on the right column with the data. Awesome. If you click on show advanced settings, you'll see a few more, such as payment conditions and a document style. Yeah, I don't really have much there because it's a demo account. Now the interesting thing is, and this is also where it gets tricky sometimes, is the details, which are the line items on your invoice. And as you can maybe tell, the line items are the ones we have here as sub items. So we want to show the sub items on the invoice. And let's do that by clicking map here and then clicking OK. Oh, it needs to have a value. Wait a second. Let's not click map and click OK. Okay, this is annoying. Let's fill in some test data for now. Because if it's bold, it means it's required. So let's just do it like this and get back to it in a second. Just click OK. And then unlink this one because we're going to add something which is a bit more advanced, which are iterators and aggregators. You don't need to know how this works, why this works, or what it is in general, but let's just follow my steps and I'll try to explain it while we're doing it. So type iterator, and iterators basically will iterate through your sub items. So let's use the array, which is, where is it? Get invoice sub items, there you go. So go to the get invoice detail step and the sub items, and it will iterate through the sub items. And we click OK. And now we're going to aggregate, which means it will iterate through the sub items and output it in a specific way. Well, I'll show you in a second. Source module is the iterator, and we click OK. Now we're going to link it to the Moneybird step and click on the Moneybird step. And then here we're going to just remove this test item we just created and map it to the array, because we're going to map it exactly the way Moneybird wants to see it. So let's click OK. And now in this array aggregator, we have a target structure type. So we're iterating through the sub items, and Monday obviously has their own, structure, and we're going to structure it the way Moneybird likes to see it. So here you should see details from Moneybird with all this information. And if you click, you'll see these green things, which is actually the iterated sub item. So as you can see, one of the sub items has a name Facebook ads campaign, as you know. We have some columns, which, as you know, we need to get the data from. It's quite hard to see which one is which, but you can use the trick I showed you on the column IDs, which I'll show you in a second as well. So let's do the name, and make sure that you don't use anything here now, because we really need to use the iterator, otherwise it won't work. So do a name. If you want a date range, you can do whatever you want here. I'll just go and use an amount, which in my case is quantity, which is numbers underscore underscore 1. So let's go back to make numbers underscore underscore 1. And then I can assume that the other one is this one. As you can see, there's no formula outcome in the API. So if you want to calculate stuff, you would need to do it in Monday make, but you don't need to do it here. Great. Tax rate IDs, as you can see, you can just unmap it if you want and link it to the right ledgers, projects, etc., etc. In my case, I won't do that to keep it simple, but you can go quite advanced here. Let's click OK. And now we have the create sales invoice step. And yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to test it, but I created it in the customer doesn't exist route, so we need to make sure that the customer doesn't exist. So let's run it and go to the Monday tutorial, and I'll add a contact email, which will be petdemo@test.com. There you go. And yeah, let's run it. So create an invoice and see what happens. So it's going the right way. As you can see, it did some great stuff. It actually created an invoice. Invoice ID is here. And if I go to Moneybird, I will actually see it. So let's refresh, and there you go. We have the first draft invoice. That's awesome. With the company name, and as you can see, here's all the information. 8 Google ads, which should probably be 8 hours now that I think about it, and 16. So yeah, as you can see, it's in Dutch. So I will probably, I won't change that for this video because it's a bit, not really necessary. But you can just see the main thing. Like it says subtotal, total, VAT. It has everything that we need it to have. But as you can see, if you would add more company details, you would see more here. By the way, this is a random address. It's not my own address, so please don't send anything here. Great. So creating invoices works. Now we need to make sure that the invoice gets saved to Monday. So this is actually where it gets a bit more tricky, because Make doesn't have a module for downloading invoices, as you can see, for Moneybird. However, it's possible with their API. So I will just show you how to do it. It's relatively simple, but if you scroll to the bottom, it says make an API call. So if you click there, Make takes care of all the authorization, so you don't need to do this. However, you do need to have a few steps here. So the URL will be, and I'll check it here. So Make says enter path relative to monday.com/API. So in this case, downloading the sales invoice is /API and then this stuff. And I'll also, you can just do it like this and copy and paste it like this, or you can just, type what you see here. However, keep in mind that this 123 is your administration ID. So we're going to change that. So remove 123 and add the administration ID. As I said, you can also drag it if that's easier for you. So do that. And then the sales invoice, the ID you see here is also an example ID. So here you would actually need to drag in the invoice ID like this. Let's double check. I think it's a, what is it? Is it a GET request? Yes. So make sure this method is on GET. And then I'm not sure, do we need to give any more information? No, it doesn't seem like we have to. So we would click OK. I'm going to run this as a test for a second. So what you can do in Make, which I love, is you can just open this one. Well, anyways, now let's just use the whole thing. But what I wanted to say is if you right click, you can run the module only, but then you need an administration ID and an invoice ID. So we can do that by just, copying this one. So do invoice ID. Let me try to show it. Invoice ID and administration ID. And now it will just try it once for this. So let's click OK. And as you can see, we got a status 200, which is great. A lot of information here. So it's looking pretty good actually. Yeah, so I'm happy to see that. But I think we need to run the whole automation once. So let's rename this one. So download invoice and then run it. Then we're going to keep in mind I used the customer doesn't exist, which now does exist. So I need to change this email a bit. So let's do Patrick Demo 1. Oops. Yeah. Otherwise it will go into the wrong route. Let's try it again. Click create invoice. And then hopefully the whole flow works well. There you go. Looks well. Let's attach this invoice to the file column so we actually see what's going on. So as a next step, Monday, and then we do Monday file. And as you can see, add a file. Oh, not that one. Add a file to a column value. Hopefully, if we map it, we can map it here to the file name, which will be, do we have a file name? No. So let's give it a file name then. Invoice dash, and then we'll do invoice ID. Sounds like a nice file name to me. And then the data will be the body that you have here. The board ID will be Moneybird tutorial in my case, but it's your board of course. So use your own board name. Don't use the fixed one, but use the mapped one. Just go to the bottom and go to Pulse ID. And for column ID, we have invoice. If you don't see that one yet, you need to add an invoice file column and then, try again. All looks pretty good to me. Let's click OK. And let's see if anything happens. Also, while we do that, I also want to show that when this is done, it's actually being created. So let's just copy the step we had here, copy and paste it here and connect it to here. And then we say not change status to creating, but change status to created. And we also need to change it in this thing. So creating will be created. Well, let's see if it works. So run it once. Once again, I already have a customer, so I'll just add another thing. And let's check. Keep in mind, if your automation keeps running through this lane, it's because the customer exists. So yeah, that's why. See if stuff happens. Well, it's actually been created. So let's go into Monday. As you can see, it moved into the created invoices. It actually attached an invoice. Let's see if it works. Sorry, I forgot to say that we need to have a .pdf end. So the file name should be blah 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 invoice.pdf. Otherwise, it won't be saved as a PDF. So let's run it once again in Monday. Give it a different email and create the invoice once again. And I'll just remove the one that's already here because that one doesn't work. And then hopefully, there you go. Now it looks like a PDF. If I click on it, you will actually see a PDF, which is the invoice that we created. So that's great. Now what we need to do as a next step is copy this whole logic into the bottom side. So it also works for customers that already exist. So just shift and drag, then right click and copy, and right click and paste. Now drag it into the right place and connect them. And there's a few things we need to change. As you can already see, there's a warning sign, meaning that it's referencing data that doesn't exist in this flow, because this one is referencing this module, which is not in this line, so it cannot reference it. So we need to get it from this step. As you can see, the one that's here. I think that's all data. That's important. All the other stuff, yep. No, that's it really. So it should now also work for existing customers. So let's try. So the one we just created, this one, if I would do it again, and let's say it's now, whatever, 24 hours. We should have 2 invoices here in a second. Let's see if it works. So see, it's going this path, so it's great. And as you can see, there's another one. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, 24 Google Ads campaigns hours. Awesome. So 2 more things. We need to add the link to Moneybird and the invoice ID here. So we can also do that in the last step. So if you go to the last step and then add another item, we can say, well, the invoice ID, this one, is, and then we reference the invoice ID. You can, by the way, also type it. So if you type invoice here, yeah, it shows the invoice ID. And we also want the link to Moneybird. So the column will be link to Moneybird. And the URL is here, sales invoice URL, which the text, I don't know, can be click here. Or something like go to Moneybird. So if people click, they know what they're signing up for. Yeah, we can just copy this to here. So let's remove this one and clone this one and attach it like that. And why is it? Oh, as you can see here, it showed the yellow warning sign. So keep in mind that you need to re-select some things. In this case, the invoice ID is now referencing this one, or sorry, this one, and should be the other one. So let's type invoice ID. And the same with the invoice URL, we have it here. And now, if we save it, by the way, save it a lot in between, because if you accidentally close your browser, you will lose some information. If we now would turn it on, it would actually work all the time. So let's see if it actually does. Let's create the invoice one more time. And now I expect to see a link and an invoice ID here. And if that works, then creating the invoice actually worked. And now we can go to the, there you go, it works. We can go to the sending invoices step. Let's double check if it works. So I'll go to here. It's actually not, oh, I see. So the reason why this is the wrong URL is because we actually need the URL that we would have here. So it would be moneybird.com/administration ID /sales invoices /sales invoice ID. So let's go back to make, and in the last step, fix that URL by just creating it ourselves. So remove the sales invoice URL, and here we're going to put the administration ID, this one, and here we're going to put the sales invoice ID. I'm going to copy this whole thing, click OK, and paste it here as well. So it also works on this side. However, the administration ID and sales invoice ID need to be referenced correctly. Make sure that you don't accidentally remove these things, otherwise it won't work. Great, so now it looks better. Let's try it one more time just to be sure that everything works. Oh, whoops, I don't need that, just save. Let's check. Create invoice, and I expect that when it's done, it will actually work this time. There you go, it's running and it's updated. If I go to Moneybird now, as you can see, I will actually open the invoice. Keep in mind, you can only open Moneybird if you have access to Moneybird. This is not the URL you would send to your client. Awesome. By the way, the URL that you would send to your client is probably the one that we just had. So just good to know. Awesome. So as a next step, if we go back, we can see, okay, we now looked up the context, we created the invoice and saved the file. We just need to send the invoice, and then we go into the best practice tips. So now we have an invoice. We're like, oh, this invoice is great. We like it. We love it. It's all good. But we want to start sending it. I already created a button. So if you click here, it will say ready to send, which is the next trigger for the next webhook. So let's go back to make, and I will go back and go into my folder. You probably might not have folders. Where's the automation? There you go. I will go through this part really quickly because I'm going to set up a new webhook again, which I already showed at the beginning of this video. So if you cannot really follow it, just look at the beginning or look at my webhook video, or yeah, just look at it a few times. But we go through it relatively quickly this time. So create a new scenario, give it a name, Monday.com, Moneybird, send invoice. Then the trigger is a webhook. It's a custom webhook. We create a webhook, we call it send invoice. We save it, we click OK, we add a response, and we do it like this, challenge, colon, oh, come on, one dot challenge, and then like this, we do OK, we do this, we copy the address to the clipboard, we run it once, we go to Monday, we go to template, we go to webhook, we change the status, we use another account, we connect, we status, we do ready to send, we just test this new thingy, we remove this specific module because we don't need it anyway, we run it once, we change this to something else, otherwise it won't trigger, we send the invoice, and as you can see, it will show something. Great, hopefully you followed it. Next step, obviously the thing we already did is get an item. You already have seen it in the first part of the video. This needs to be, where is it, Moneybird? You probably don't need to change this, but I use a new one for each tutorial, that's why. So we do pulse ID, board ID in this case is Moneybird. Moneybird, there you go. And to send an invoice, we need to also use the Moneybird API. So I'll just show you real quick. Send an invoice. As you can see, we need to use the API. So the thing we need according to the API is, let me check. Yeah, so as you can see here, if you don't know code, that's no problem. I'll just show you. But it says we need to have a few things. We need, once again, the administration ID and the invoice ID. So let's just use that. So what we're going to do is going to make, and we're going to add the Moneybird step, which is at the bottom, make an API call. The URL will be, let's check. So it's from /v2, right? From /API. Yeah, so it's /v2, and then you just copy this part. Feel free to just type it like I do it here. The administration ID is actually a great one because I didn't save it anywhere. However, we did save the invoice ID. So let's see, where is it? Invoice ID. So we remove it here and we put it here. Now the administration ID will always be the same for you. So what we can just do is just open Moneybird, and as you can see, you also see it here. So you can just copy it and go back to make and paste that here because it's fixed. It's always the same. So this is fine. If you would build this as an app for a lot of different users, this needs to be a variable field, but since you're building it for your own administration, and I assume that's always the same administration, you can just use the fixed value. However, if it's really not the case, you can save the administration ID also as a column value, just like we saved this invoice ID. Great. Now, the next step is to know that it's a, where is it? It's a patch. So let's change make to method is patch. And then I think that's all we need really. Just checking here. Yes. The only thing I'm a bit worried about is the email address I used. So I'll save this one and save the whole module. And rename this one. So call send invoice. But I will also just create one new one, like completely from scratch with my own actual demo email. Otherwise, someone will get an email that we don't want to send an email. I'll just remove all these invoices real quick to make it easy to understand. There you go. One more. Yes. Okay. So let's go through the whole flow. So the first thing would be to create the invoice, and then I expect to see an invoice PDF here in a few seconds. There you go. Invoice ID also changed, as you just saw. And now we can actually send the invoice. So that would be this one. So let's run it once. Or actually, let's just turn it on. That's also fine. And then go back. And then in Monday, we do send invoice. And then I expect it to run. But it had an error, which is interesting. So let's look at why it did error. The request body could be because invalid. Okay, let me check this and get back to you. Okay, guys, I found the problem. You need to add some things to the Moneybird step. So actually, when you're here, you need to well, we had patch already, but you need these should also be there already. But here in data, you need to have manual body data, and then have exactly what I have here. So it's open curly brackets, double quotation mark, sales underscore invoice underscore sending, double quotation mark, colon, open curly brackets, and then on another line to make it easier to see, delivery method email, and that's it. Obviously you can do a lot of things here, such as changing delivery methods, schedule sending it in the future, but then you would need to look into the API documentation to do that. In this case, when I run it now, I'll run it, wait for new data, and I say send invoice. As you can see, it will run and it will send. And then here in my test email, I will, as you can see, have received an email with the newest invoice. So that's awesome. The only thing we would need to do to complete this step is to update the column. So let's do update column values of a specific item, as we also did earlier. The board ID is Moneybird, and the pulse ID or item ID is the pulse ID. Then the column values to change. Also here I go through it relatively quickly because we already done it. Label, and the label is sent. By the way, we could also actually make it a little bit better by removing unlink here, cloning this one, putting it here, and first also showing to the user that we're sending it. So let's say sending. Obviously not necessary, but just to make it a little bit better. Make sure it's turned on, make sure it's saved, and then that's actually it. I have some old data, so I'll just delete that because I don't need it. And these are actually all the steps to build the whole automation. The last step is a best practice tips. So I already worked on a few of them with you. So for example, these ones where you update with the user. There's one major one that's still missing, which is related to error handling. So if you go into a module, and let's say Monday service would be down or Moneybird service would be down, you can actually retry the same step a few times automatically. So if you right click and do add an error handler, and we use the break one, there is the number of attempts. So in this case, we'll try it 3 times, and it will try 15 minutes in between each of those tries. I would recommend putting this to, for example, 5. Usually that's fine. And then I'll just copy this like you would copy anything on your computer and link it to the things. As you can see, if I save it, we'll have errors. So you would need to go into this more button. Oh, sorry, not more, to the scenario settings button, and then use allow storing of incomplete executions and turn it to yes. And I click OK, and they will be gone. I'll just copy these and save it. So I can also easily change that in the other tutorial scenario, this one. As you can see, there's a lot more here to do, so I'll just do it real quick. One important thing that you need to know is that you do not need to connect it to, for example, iterators or aggregators, because those are from Make themselves. So yeah, you don't really need to connect those because yeah, it just doesn't really make sense. And Make will automatically do things if Make would be down. But honestly, I've been using it for a long time and I've never had any problems with it. Of course, every software has their days where they just have a few more, where it's a little bit slower than usual or where it's down. But yeah, that's with Make, I never really have any problems. So it should look something like this. And that's actually how you would build the whole integration. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you really liked it and can now connect your Monday.com to Moneybird and can start sending invoices, quotes, creating contacts, and maybe go even further from there. If you have a very specific use case or if you just need some help, reach out to me. My contact details are in the description below. And if you want to download the blueprints with all the information, which is quite useful with some of the JSON data and the URLs that you need, you can just use the first thing, the link in the description. It will also have the formula that I showed you to easily format number columns. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there for free. You can just download it and import it in Make. So I highly recommend that you download it. And then, yeah, hopefully you liked it. If you liked it, please leave a like on the video. If you have questions, just comment as well. And if you want to see more of those videos with regards to Monday automations, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.